All right. Here we go. We are going to kick off the end of season award ceremony for school season one. School. I guess it's pretty much going as school now. But anyway, this was a huge learning point trying to get this whole season together. And the first thing I want to open up with is just how much fun it was to work with the community, work with all the players to create something in SCU that was as special as the StarCraft Underground League. And so, with that being said, it definitely did not go. Yeah, very high production value. You can tell the PowerPoint skills are carrying over very well. Hopefully, the slides actually even change. But overall, I think that there was a lot of lessons learned. There was a lot of kind of hiccups and speed bumps along the way, but it was still an event. It was a season that was a lot of fun, and I'm looking forward to season two. So, what we're going to do tonight is I just wanted to make sure, and this was a little bit of an afterthought, right? Season one was kind of an experiment trying to see how we could make a franchise league work with different skill levels in the foreign community and how we could carry it on to be something that can, stand the test of time. And so with that, I didn't even think about trying to accumulate data or take snippets or highlight reels or anything to create an end of season award ceremony or recognition ceremony for all the players and all the hard work that was involved. So this one I'm hoping will be the lamest of all the award ceremonies and end of season ceremonies that we have in SCUL as we go from season to season. But I wanted to kick it off, and so I'm just going to go through, and basically what I'm going to do is I'm going to show some stats. I'm going to announce the winners in the standings of the various teams, and then we'll go through, and I want to provide some special recognition to some of the players, both through their performance and through their community engagement throughout. And then at the end of it, I want to briefly go over season two, some of the big changes that are coming based on the feedback that we got from season one, and yeah, just talk about that. Yeah, so that'll be kind of the order of operations. Let's go ahead. Oh, and I also don't want to forget. Where is it? Yeah. We got to clap for the award winners and things. So I got to make sure I have my soundboard ready and handy for whenever there's opportunities to applaud for our awardees. Now, one thing I did want to get out there right off the rip is I sent out a bunch of ideas. I was like, hey, community, what should we nominate people for? What awards should we have to recognize all the awesome players and achievements in this league? And I got 0 recommendations back on types of awards, but I did get one piece of feedback, and that was that Fire Tip should be nominated for every single category, regardless of what the categories are. So congratulations, Fire Tip, you were nominated for everything. So we're going to have to go ahead and see how that pans out for you. So first and foremost, there was a lot that I said first and foremost like 9 times. But anyway, we're going to go into the season itself. And the season was a long one. We played for, I think it was scheduled to be 6 weeks, ended up going into a 7th week because of some snafus with the finals and understanding that we did not have a structure that was going to guarantee those 10 wins for the finals. But overall, this is what we had go down. We had 93 rostered players. Is that showing? Yeah, there we go. 93 rostered players in the league for its very first season. Of those, we had 102 series played throughout the entirety. Now, there was a couple forfeits, and those are taken out of the numbers. So 102 series that were played, both best of 3 and best of 1. And in those series, they all added up to 198 maps or individual matches that were played. And that's a ton of content, right? Only a small fraction of this actually got casted because there was so much StarCraft happening, and this isn't including the practice games and everything else going on. So this was quite the achievement to occur over just a quick 7-week period. Now the next thing is going to be the team awards. Now yeah, please hold your applause, everybody. Hold your applause. But in first place, at the end of this season, we did have Savage coming in with a record of 30-14 and a final prestige count, which is going to be basically the performance indicator going from season to season of 38. In second place, we had Legion coming in with a record of 35-23 with a prestige count of 42. And then Chaos 21-37 with a prestige of 28. And Unhinged coming in fourth with a record of 16-28 and a prestige of 22. Now, if you're looking at this and you're looking at the prestige and the records, you're like, hey, this isn't all equaling. What is going on here? This was something that wasn't anticipated. It should have been. It was just an oversight with the prestige system being based on series wins and the middle seeds 2 and 3 in the finals, getting an additional week of play. So that's why you have the situation where Savage actually came in first, but Legion is actually currently leading the league in prestige points. So very cool. Congratulations to Savage for being the SCUL Season 1 winner. Now, when it comes to the players, there were some players that stood head and shoulders above the rest. And these were the players that were able to bring in those series wins, those map wins, those precious, precious map wins to help lead their teams to victory each and every week. And so this season's most valuable players are Harry from Team Savage with a 4-0 undefeated record, Static from Team Savage with a 4-0 undefeated record, and Wolfix representing Team Unhinged with a 4-0 record. We gotta make sure. Yes, yay! We gotta applaud these players. They did fantastic work, and I also want to point out Static. No one even knew who this dude was. He showed up in the StarCraft Underground League, and they were like, "Yeah, we'll pick him up." Ends up being an absolute powerhouse. Now, just going undefeated is not enough for a team. Each and every week, teams require their players to show up and put those points on the board. Or in some manner, just be there and be present so that they are not giving forfeits. And so the next award is going to be the Iron Man Award. And this is an award that recognizes players that showed up every single week. They had 100% attendance when their teams were able to play, and they showed up for their team. And so for Savage, we have Harry, Static, Doodle Doodle, Flash, Keen, Hazareth, and Vahens. For Chaos, we have JJ Sayre and Firetip. Hey, Firetip, your nomination came through. There it was. Unhinged had Wolfix, Sklur, and Dentarg, and Legion had Thrive, Tom, Yakub, and Ed, and Anyfan. So thank you so much to all these players for showing up and being fielded each and every week. And you can see Savage as well having a strong core. I gotta mention, 7 players when most weeks required 10 players showing up every single week is a huge, huge advantage. Now, we talked about the MVPs going completely undefeated throughout the season. We know the Iron Man Award. We have the players right here in front of us that showed up every single week and put their neck on the line and played some great StarCraft. But there has to be a player that maybe played every week and was maybe unfortunate in some of their results. And this may not be due to their skill level, but maybe a player that might be paired with people to ensure that their best player on the opposing team is not able to take wins off of your strong players. And I'm going to refer to this as the Sacrificial Lamb Award. And this season's Sacrificial Lamb is no other than Ed, and Eddie Fan, who played 100% of the weeks and ended the season with a 1-4 record. Thank you. Thank you for taking one for your team. The participation matters a ton. So congratulations, Ed, and Eddie Fan. Now, the next award goes to a little bit of how to support your team when you're not. Fartcraft, this started about 10 minutes ago. Yeah, and I stalled for a while to see if people were going to jump in, but it'll be on YouTube. So anyway, the next award goes to a player that supported their team, but maybe not always in the brackets. As we know, in SCU started as a bunch of brackets. It was just a way to have a Discord server in which you could practice competitive StarCraft and always have a bracket to sign up for and always have the opportunity for flexible scheduling. Since our community is relatively small and it is global, time zones become an issue. Not to mention, we're all about 35 to 45 years old and have a lot of life stuff. And so the next award goes to the player who earned the most SCU bucks for their team through competing in the various SCU brackets and performing at a very high level. And that player is Keen on Team Savage. Keen's participation in the brackets earned Team Savage 55 SCU bucks over over season 1, which was a big deal. In fact, some of the effort that was applied by Keen and many of the other players that were able to raise so much funds for their teams is having myself and the captains kind of look at the economy and try to find ways to mitigate runaway teams that are so successful in the brackets, right? So it is a wonderful thing that Keen did for Team Savage, but it's also something that is showing some flaws in the league that needs some slight mitigation. So very, very cool. The next award is the Content Creator Peace Prize. So I've been asking for content support, and I've been trying to cast as much as I can. There's been a couple of attempts, and I want to give some honorable mentions after this award is provided. But there was one person that kind of stood out above the rest and showed up each and every week, and was even available when I wasn't available to help host the Too Cool for School podcast. And that is, again, Keen. Keen is awarded the Content Creator Peace Prize for his work in Too Cool for School. His takes, his higher level play, his knowledge of the higher level players and predictions, and making a weekly reliable podcast is a lot of fun. And couldn't do it without Keen. And when I presented the idea, he jumped on it, and he's been very, very reliable with it, and I'm very thankful for it. A couple of honorable mentions here. Wolfix did put some of his school matches on his YouTube. And then I also wanted to throw an honorable mention to Crather. Crather has been doing a ton of streaming of SCU brackets, namely the money brackets, and posting on YouTube. The biggest thing is that Crather was not a part of SCUL, so I just wanted to make sure that he was getting recognition for the work that he was doing as this season was ongoing. So the next award goes to the most hyped match. There was a lot of hyped matches, and this one was a little interesting, and I was trying to figure out a way to approach this because some of the weeks came down to the very last match. The very first finals week, we only had 14 series, but we didn't have 14 series. We had 10 series. We needed all 14 to come to a conclusion, and so there was a good amount of hype factor there. In the grand finals, that pairing between Savage and Legion was actually getting very, very close, and there was definitely some upsets, and I'm kicking myself for not having had the time to cast those matches this week. But there was one match that in the Discord server went absolutely bonkers. I hadn't seen anything like it in the SCU server up until that point. There must have been 30, maybe even 40 people watching this match. And when others were saying, hey, I think I'll cast that match on Twitch, there was feedback such as, why? Everyone already saw it. It was everyone and their mother was already watching it in the Discord. And so the most hyped match for Season 1 had to be no other than Rice Hat versus Neurasthenia in Round Robin Week 2, Set 4, where Neurasthenia, I think this was a little early in kind of acknowledging her skill level, provided a 2-1 victory over Rice Hat in very, very cool ZVT action. So that was the most hyped match for Season 1. Now, it's not just the matches, it's not just the content. There's a lot of support that is provided to SCU and SCUL in form of passion projects, right? And there's one that's been flying in the background for a good amount of time, and some people might be tangentially aware of it, and it's not even completed yet. But we do have a website. We have a website that is not just a, hey, look, this is SCU, but a website that players can use to do in-depth analysis on their competition, that they can register uh, their wins and losses, and it's tied to challenge, that they can pull replays from every single match. They can analyze the APM of every single player. They can look at heat maps of the match that shows when and where the players were moving and building and attacking. And it's really, really cool. And all of this is because of the initiative. Like, honestly, this was completely this awardee's brainchild, and he has ran with it. So the League Support Award for this season is going to go to Champion. Champion from the ground up has created a beautiful StarCraft Underground website, and you can see some of the snippets here where it has all of the maps that were in the season. And when you click on a map, you can see over on the side all of the matchups that have occurred on that map, and you can click into it and immediately download the replays. You can watch the heat maps of when and where these players were expanding. You can go into the different, yeah, it's not published yet. We're still working on it, but it is so damn cool. And Champion keeps reaching out, and I know you're watching. I saw you in the chat. You're like, hey, what should I change? What should I add? What should I do? And I'm like, bro, you're already so beyond any website like imagination that I had. Like, just keep rolling with it. And so we're looking to have this maybe not at 100%, but probably like 90% and usable for season 2, because season 2 is coming up on us really quick. But I just threw a couple snippets from what the website looks like, and it's beautiful. It's responsive. It's so responsive for the amount of data that it's pulling, and it's really, really cool. So next up, we have, and this is a loving prize. This is a loving award. A lot of, and this is kind of my own fault, right? So when it comes to SCU, it comes to SCUL, I've been doing a lot on my own. And this isn't due to a lack of people volunteering. This isn't due to a lot of people offering assistance. This is my own problem with just kind of having a tough time unleashing control. And when that happens, there's obviously going to be mistakes. I'm not very smart. And there's a couple of people that regularly point out how not smart I am, and how many problems there are with the league, with SCU, with my communication, with all of the different things that I'm trying to accomplish. And honestly, wholehearted thank you to these individuals, because the feedback channel doesn't always capture all the feedback. I get a lot of DMs. I see a lot of different things just throughout the channels when I'm just perusing through and I should be working. But there's a couple of voices that are definitely very close to my ear, and even though I might get sassy, I wholeheartedly and genuinely appreciate the feedback and support, and everyone here in this league benefits from it, because it only makes things better. Even if I have to go for like a 5-mile run just to blow off steam because I'm so annoyed. So the Pain in the Ass awards go to 2 different players within the league, and they are awarded to both Mevius and Manadog. Thank you to both of these players. This is, purely just a joke in title. Truly, this is probably most helpful advisor. Translated, pain in my ass, right? So thank you so much for everything you do. As I said, everyone in the league benefits a lot. The next award goes to the Rules Lawyer. Whenever there's rules, whenever there's passion, whenever there's team competition, there is always that coach. There's always that manager. There's always that team captain or player that wants to get in the rules, in the umpire or the referee's face, right? You watch a baseball game and you see someone throw a ball and they challenge and it should be a strike, and they say it's a ball, and all of a sudden you got this coach, spitting seeds at them and freaking yelling at them, and the fans are going wild. Everyone's pissed off. That's also extremely good to have because you need to make sure that in a league like this that needs longevity, that our rules are airtight, that they're understood. And there was times during season 1 where that wasn't always the case, and I had to sit there and try to explain something that should have been written out in black and white, but it just wasn't, right? And so we can make those corrections and make the seasons better. And so the rules lawyer, or the extremely vocal baseball coach of the season, goes to Navane. Navain was very, very passionate about a couple of the forfeits that occurred between Unhinged and Chaos in the finals bracket. And, I think that that passion was extremely appreciated, both from his team fighting for their case, and then also from my standpoint as the commissioner, trying to make sure that everything is done fairly and equally across the board, and that the rules hold up so that they can last and they can be referenced for seasons to come. So, Navain gets the Rules Lawyer Award for season 1. Now, the next award was something that I was hoping for some more nominations, um, because I know they exist. So, with a legacy league, and this isn't something that I've seen done really in StarCraft. I mean, I guess you can look back in the old times, and there was different teams in Korea, the Kespa area, etc. But I haven't seen it in like a fantasy StarCraft realm or anything along those lines, but data, right? Having an analyst, having someone that is helping with the decisions associated with drafting certain players, assigning certain players against others, who can beat who, how should we approach the economy, how do we exploit as much as we can from the system to put our team into an advantage. And so for the next award is the Analyst Award, something that I expect there are more of, but yeah, I see it in the chat. Navain is the analyst, is gaining the Analyst Award for season 1. I was so impressed at how quickly this started to occur. Very early on, after the draft, Navain was scouring his team to identify who each member on the team thought that they could beat on each of the other teams. And so he compiled all this data, and you can see here, I placed a bunch of it so that it's not really spoilable, or I don't want to give away like his, data for his team or whatever. But he was able to identify using essentially gut feelings of the players, but then also as time went on, actual win rates on who these players would have the best chances to beat and who they should be paired against. And I just thought this was so freaking cool and really is aligned with a lot of the vision of how SCU and SCUL should be going forth. So that pretty much does it for the named awards. So congratulations to our awardees. Yes, very nice. Again, some more honorable mentions, right? I think that one of the big things in organizations I really want to thank is CPL. SCUL started after the last CPL season, and through the endorsement of the admins over on CPL, that led to a very large influx of players that I believe made the first season possible. So I wanted to thank CPL. I also wanted to thank all the people that have been providing monetary support through donations. That support through donations and Prime subs is what allows us to do the monetary tournaments, which honestly is probably the biggest driver of high tier players joining StarCraft Underground. And then I also wanted to thank the team captains that volunteered to be captains for each of the teams. It's kind of a tough job, especially in a season and in a league that is just starting. There's a lot of things that maybe weren't accounted for and may feel a little unfair, right? Or there may be ideas that we were trying to progress, such as trade windows and how do we approach that, the economy, yada, yada, yada. And a lot of the adjustments that we're making to SCUL in season 2 are because of the patience and the humbleness of the captains and trying to work together with myself to make sure that this league is enjoyable. I also want to mention and thank all the players that had a lot of really good ideas throughout the season, especially early on. There was a lot of feedback surrounding skill differences, right? Like, hey, how come, or how can we have a format where lower tier players can actually get to play? And that was really kind of tough for me to kind of think through, but ultimately that kind of feedback and the passion existing in the players that were a little lower tier that weren't getting field time led to some of the ideas such as the best of threes versus best of ones in the finals bracket. right? Which I think was had the intended result. We had the higher tier players facing off against each other, and then it kind of trickled down to an appropriate level. It's also going to lead to some of the changes in season 2 that we'll get to here in a second. So overall, and then last honorable mention is just the players themselves, right? It's a clunky system. It's still being ironed out. We have the challenge combined with spreadsheets ruling the world on this. We've had rules issues, and we've just had a lot of patience overall from the player base. And it seems like everyone's just here to have a good time and play just like it's intended. And so thank you everyone for making season 1 awesome. Yay! All right. And with that, I think that does it for our awards. I'm now going to transition into a preview of season 2. So season 2, there's now a new spreadsheet. It's been posted in the Discord. The season 1 spreadsheet still exists. I'm going to keep it in the Discord server. Everyone still has access to it. But the season 2 one is now the live one. So if you have earned SCUL bucks for your team over the past couple days, this is where it's being updated. So if you're referencing the old one, you're not going to see those updates. It got cut off, I think on like the 8th is when it cut off. But this is the new one. If you've resigned from your team, it's going to reflect in this one. This sheet also reflects everyone's contracts. So talking changes. Let's talk changes. So some of the biggest changes, I got to make sure not to show my legs because there's a myth that I don't have legs. I just have fins. All right, looks like we're good. So a couple of the biggest changes are related to player mobility, how the economy is used, and then ensuring maximum participation so that lower level players can play. So let's go through each of those. Player mobility. This has been mentioned on Too Cool for SCUL before, but everyone now has a contract duration. So if you go into the Season 2 SCUL spreadsheet, you'll see a contract type next to your name or in your name. So like if we look here, Abji has a contract type of 3. That means that he is with Team Legion for 3 seasons, with the first season starting in season 2. Season 1 is not going to count for these. You guys are all being grandfathered in if you are a current player in the league. Okay, at the end of your contract, you go back to the free agent pool. If you get traded while still with your team and under contract, you keep that same contract type, but it becomes refreshed. So if you were a contract type 3, which is 3 seasons, when you go to that other team, that resets. So if you only had 1 season left, you now have your full 3 left. The thing with the 3s and 4s, the 3 season and 4 season contracts, is that you can only have so many players per team with that contract amount. Right now that number is 5. You can only have 5 players per team with 4 season contract, 5 players per team with a 3 season contract, and everyone else is defaulted to 2 seasons. If you look through here, you may, and I'm only mentioning this because I know people do scrub this, there's already someone that's jumped in. You may see some people with contract 1. These are individuals that are inactive, right? I didn't want to kick anyone from a team or anything for being inactive because maybe their life got busy or whatever the case is, and they want to come back for season 2 and be on their team. But if you see that, that just means they're inactive and they're not going to cost their team anything, which we're going to go over right now due to salaries. So that's all that means. The next change, how the economy works. So in the seasons, we have the SCUL buck brackets. Those are going to be unchanged for the time being. However, Prestige is also continuing to give rebates, but every season, all of the teams are going to get an inject of funds. For this season, it was 1,200 SCUL bucks, and this is to help facilitate drafting and player costs. So from now on, starting with the end of season 1, each player costs their team their draft value to maintain. So for example, after season 1, Abji, we'll just continue using him as an example, costs Legion 35 SCUL bucks to keep for season 2. This goes up. every season, that price will go up 10%. So next season, Abji is going to cost his team 38.5 SCU bucks. And then the season after that, because he's a 3 contractor, it'll go up, whatever that is, $3.85. So he'll be like 41 or 42 SCU bucks to cost for his team. The intent behind this is to ensure both proper drafting practices and also help with balancing the economy and the team strength so we can prevent runaway teams. It also increases the value of the SCU buck brackets, which encourages participation, which is something that we want in the league. Okay, that might be a little confusing. If you have questions, fire them away in the chat or whatever. We'll get to them. Ask your captains. They all have a strong understanding of how this works. But essentially, every season, there's going to be a cost. And this can kind of help justify the injects as well. So like, let's just look at Savage as an example. Let's just go through one. So if you look at Savage, at the end of season 1, they had to pay 820 SCU bucks to retain all of their team members. In season 2, that's going to be 902 bucks, right? So you can see how it creeps up. And this isn't even considering them paying for new players in the draft. And so this helps the more expensive, the higher performing players be balanced out among the teams because you can only afford so many of them. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and put everyone back on here. Alrighty. So that's contracts and contract costs. Moving on into a couple other things. The format. Oh, buckle up, guys. So this is the monster spreadsheet, which I'll probably create other ones that just break it down by team that show how matches are going to go in season 2. Let me go ahead and zoom back in though. So each week, and I have shown something similar to this before, but this is kind of the official document as of now. Each team is going to play 2 teams at once next season. Now, originally when I had described this, I wanted each matchup to have a home team and an away team. With 4 teams, we can't really do that cleanly to where it mathematically makes sense, where each team would have 1 at home and 1 away and equal amounts of home and away at the end of the season. So what we're going to do is each team is going to play each other team, but it's going to be based off seeding for that week. So going into round 1, I'll walk you through it. The first map will be dictated. There'll be best of 3s. All of the matches will be best of 3s. The higher seed will place will be the second team to put a player out on the field. They'll have the advantage. So in this case, Savage is number 1 seed, starting off from, season 1. From then on, in the future rounds, it'll be whoever has the most points. So Savage playing Legion would put the first player. Then Savage would put the next 2, so on and so forth, just like we did in season 1. The same would be the case over here with Chaos. Chaos would put the first player, they'd put the next 2, so on and so on. Now, in a situation where maybe that's not so clean, you can look over here at Chaos and Unhinged, and Chaos and Savaged. So, Chaos, lower seed than Savage, will have to put a player first. But Chaos and Unhinged will have to put a player first. So it equals out on the advantage from that standpoint. So that's how ordering will work. How the brackets work for the round robin. There's going to be 4 weeks. There's going to be 6 weeks instead of 3. And there's going to be 20 matches per team instead of 10. So participation is going to be much more important. Forfeits may occur more often, but that's okay. We're taking that risk because I think what we're going to see is an interesting self-policing solution as the rounds go, and a prioritization based on what teams you're facing. So to answer your question, that's a great question. You can only be facing 1 team per week. So this is 20 players. So if Savage is playing Legion and Chaos in week 1, then Savage would pick different players for each of these matchups, which is going to be really, really interesting because there's a world, right? And kind of what I was talking about with self-policing, where a team may start winning. They may have the most points. Well, if that's a situation, maybe Chaos facing Savage, let's say Savage is that team, they're going to focus all their good players against Savage. Like, let's take wins off of Savage because they're running away with the points. Legion might do the same. Then all of a sudden, Unhinged is over here facing the lower tier players. Gosh darn it. Everyone's jumping on Steam right now. Of both Chaos and Legion, right? So there's this really cool dynamic, and it mixes up what the matchups are every single week. Okay. So that's how player picking works. That's kind of how self-policing works, and why forfeits, I think, are okay in order to mitigate the risk of players not playing as much. I'd rather have some forfeits and the maximum participation than no forfeits and a bunch of players twiddling their thumbs. So that's what we're aiming to fix here. And don't forget, we're going to be injecting somewhere around 30 plus more players in Season 2. Okay, now, when it comes to the scoring, one of the other problems that was discussed was high tier players versus low tier players. Part of how we saw that being fixed was prioritizing matches in the finals bracket of Season 1 with the best of 3s and the best of 1s. Similar situation here. You'll see the first 3 matches of each of these matchups are highlighted yellow. The winner of this best of 3 series will get 1 additional map win added to their score, because all of these are best of 3, right? So just like the last round robin, all the matchups are best of 3. But let's say this ends 2-1. Well, Legion is going to have 3 points. It's not an auto formula. I'm going to have to go through and fix that. But they'll end up with 3 points because of the +1 benefit of winning this. And it's even a bigger deal if it's a 2-0, because then it's 3-0 on map wins over 1 series. So this is a pretty big deal. So like if you crunch the numbers and stuff, just getting a free map win on top of a win, it only being triggered when you actually beat your opponent in the series, is a pretty big deal when it comes to scoring. So with that in mind, I imagine the bulk of the high tier players will have to be utilized to try to fight for those points. Okay, looks like I deleted my formulas there, whatever. So I'll go through and clean this up, but that's how this is all going to pan out and work. The finals bracket. Let me zoom out a little bit. It's not going to be gauntlet style. Holy crap, did that feel bad. The gauntlet style was really cool because, not because of the gauntlet, but because we did the best of 3 and best of 1. That might still be a case here. I haven't decided on it completely yet. The things that have been decided is that it's going to be the full 20. So we're going to maintain the 20 players required for each week, but you're only going to be facing 1 team, and it's going to be essentially a double elimination bracket, kind of. And this is how it's going to work. So when you enter the finals, there'll be 2 matches, and it'll be the first seed coming out of round robin versus the 4th seed. So you really want that first seed slot, so you can face off against the weaker of all the players. Shut up, Mevius. And then you have the 2nd seed versus the 3rd. The winners of those 2 matches will go to the championship round to fight for 1st and 2nd place. Then the next 2 will fight for 3rd. Okay? This might transition to a full-on double elimination, but the thing that I'm trying to avoid with this structure is what we had in the last playoff bracket, where we had teams not playing. And we had teams being eliminated before the end of the season, and that sucked. That was a major feel bad when we go into the finals bracket and we only have 2 of the 4 teams playing and the other 2 waiting. So what this does is it keeps all the teams engaged and playing for both of the weeks that the finals goes on. And that's why the round robin is a little bit longer, so that we get a full, 8 weeks. Okay. I think that was about it for Season 2. I'm trying to think of other things. Oh yeah, the prestige system. So the prestige system, maybe this table is not going to help a whole lot. But how the prestige system worked last time was you maxed out at 25 prestige when it came to rebates. What we saw And what you saw in the award ceremony was teams were getting above that 25. And that kind of feels a little bit rough. Not to mention, there's going to be many more games in season 2 than there were in season 1. So that prestige meter would get filled up very, very fast. So right now what I have penciled in is a total prestige of 50. So we doubled the amount of prestige that can be earned for use with rebates, in hopes that that will calibrate with the massive amounts of additional games, and not be something that is terribly challenging to achieve, but still valuable to account for the teams. That was a kind of a poor explanation. The bottom line is prestige was not high enough for season 1. We're doubling it for the sake of SCUL buck rebates at the end of the season for season 2. Okay. So yeah, that's that. Are there any questions from the few people viewing the award ceremony and sneak peek preview of season 2? And I guess while I'm waiting for questions, one thing I want to point out is next week, Monday, I believe, is the cutoff for signups. So if you want to sign up for SCUL, please go in. There's a sign up channel. It's been posted a few times now. All you got to do, go in there and click yes on the poll, and you'll be entered into the free agent pool. The second thing is Wednesday, there will be a pre-draft show that I'll run with Keen, or at least Wednesday, that's what we have templated right now, where we'll do like we did last time. We'll look at the free agents. We'll see how we expect the teams to draft and how well they're expected to do with the funds that they have, the players that are in there, and the draft limitations that exist. And then on Thursday, we'll actually execute the draft, 9:30 EST. And hopefully it's as hype filled as the first one, because that was a lot of fun. And if you've missed the draft restrictions, this is kind of what it's looking like for this upcoming week. The draft is not going to have the 75% rule. There's going to be a minimum bid of $1 per player, which may go to 0. I still need to completely hash that out. But the bottom line is that the lower seed players are going to have wiggle room to bid on picks before the higher seeds get in. So the first round is going to be chaos and unhinged only. And unhinged, as the number 4 seed, is going to have the first pick of the player to be bid on. So there's some strong players in there. There's Tim, there's Exit, there's Nomad, I think, there's G5. There's all these really good players in the free agent pool already. So we could see Chaos or Unhinged pick one of them and bid on them before Legion and Savage even show up to the table. Legion shows up on the second pick, and then Savage is there from the third pick on. So we're hoping that this kind of helps with balance. This is a little bit of a catch-up mechanic, but it's also not entirely unfair either, as these teams are going to be probably pretty ruthless on bidding for those first picks, and then they're going to be kind of strapped for cash going through the rest, right? So there's some strategy here that I'll be curious to see how the teams do. As mentioned before, there are the season contract limitations. So Savage and Unhinged both have options to draft people at 3 and 4 season term lengths. But to do so, they have to add 10 extra SCUL bucks upon winning a bid to increase their contract to 3 seasons, or 20 SCUL bucks to increase their contract to 4 seasons. So just something to keep in mind. And another thing to keep in mind, as I mentioned, it may not be unfeasible or unrealistic. Some of these teams keep these high season slots open so that they can trade and receive people that have those season contract slots already, right? Because if you trade for someone with a 4 season contract, you have to have a slot open to take them. So that might be a part of the strategy as well. Okay, cool. Let me go ahead and see if there's been any questions. So Mevius, are the contract prices to be paid at the start of the season? None of the teams have enough for it. So they do all have enough for it. And I'll kind of show you that right now. So to answer your question, yes, they're paid at the end of the last season. So in timeline, right, you have resignations, and then you have um, payment, and then you go into trades, and then you go into draft. And so we've done resignation, we've done payment. The one piece that's included in there is there's the inject. This only works with the economy how it is right now. That's super zoomed out for you guys. If I inject cash into each of the team's wallets. So what happened, as I mentioned earlier, is I had to inject $1,200 into each team so that they would be back up healthy, especially coming off of the first draft. If you think about it, if you take all of the player costs and add them up, then that would be 1,000 SCU bucks because that's what they all started bidding with in season 1, right? And Savage went into debt by $10 and the rest came really close to zero. So if that were to always increase, they would never be able to afford all their players. So I needed to inject cash in the form of 1,200 SCU bucks so that they were able to pay for the players that they had and enter the draft. Now you can see here, this is the current SCU that each of the teams are entering the draft with, where the performance and the SCU brackets all really still come into play, right? Savage did phenomenal in the SCU brackets, made a lot of money, and so they have 870 SCU bucks available. Chaos 741, Unhinged 463, Legion 643. So you can still see performance and the SCU brackets play a very large part in the remaining amount of cash that you have. The thing that will help balance this over time is if you have a lot of money and you're spending big money to get the best players, then sustaining that season over season is going to be more and more challenging. And so we'll see if that works, but it's easy to adjust, right? If we need to, we can increase the percent increase that players cost season to season. We can decrease the amount of money being injected. All these little levers and tweaks until we get it right without breaking the whole system or making a team feel awful because they couldn't prepare for something. But anyway, hopefully that answers your question. Someone take Nomads or okay, Keen, whatever. Okay, no other questions? Kick ass. Hopefully everyone enjoyed it. Again, congratulations to our award winners. And I think I can just briefly go through them again. Whoops. Oh God, what is happening here? Yeah. Oh yeah. Gotta love those transitions. But yeah, I'll leave you guys with that. Again, congratulations to all the teams. Congratulations to all the players. Meevies, you did have another question. Any plans to make it so teams earn more from SCU tournaments and prestige rather than needing injects next season? So, one of the considerations is actually to lower the rewards from the brackets to a small extent. And the injects are always going to be needed. And if you think about it like a normal sports team, there's a couple things that don't exist with SCUL that do exist with normal sports teams. First and foremost, a salary that would cost the team money would go to the player. So there's player incentives for increased salary that are a competing demand to what the team can provide. That doesn't exist in SCUL. So the price is purely based off of your value at draft, which is a little bit different and funky. To the inject part, the one thing that we don't have is teams don't have audiences. They don't have sponsorships. They don't have any way of actually making funds themselves. So that's being simulated by the injects. And the injects, I think, are going to always need to be a mainstay. But I think the amount needs to be constant or as constant as possible. Whether it's every season it's 1,000 SCU, every season it's 1,200 SCU, or if there's some sort of ratio in there. Every season it's $10 per player, right? Like per player in the league, it's $10. That's the inject. It's something you can predict. It's something you can plan for, and it doesn't need to be adjusted if we can find the right ratio, because then the draft costs will kind of self-adjust. Part of the weirdness about this is the fact that everyone's draft cost is based off of the 75% rule draft, which wildly skewed everything. So you might have weaker players that are way overcosted, and you may have really strong players that were incredibly cheap. That is going to be fixed with time. that is not something we want to knee-jerk reaction and try to like adjust prices and completely fix the league. Like, nah, we're just gonna let that happen naturally, and it will happen naturally. Did teams provide their logos? No. So this was all AI slop with the exception of Savage. Savage did have an AI slop one, but they liked the knife. That was uh, the emoji used for Discord, and so they just found this and submitted that as their logo. You can even see the watermark. Yeah, yeah, yeah. You can. It's all over the place. It's funny. I think the watermark adds. Oh, you found it. Yeah. Yep, it's there. Adds character. Any other questions? These are great questions. Even if you are a pain in the ass award recipient. Ah, overall, I'm really excited for season 2. Tell your friends, tell your wife, tell your dog's wife, join because teams are going to need players next season, especially if you combine the increase in player needs to the fact we're entering summer in the northern hemisphere and life actions that are associated with that. Oh, what's my favorite non-StarCraft game? Oh, I do like Halo Night with the boys. I don't know. I have a lot of favorite games, but there's different moods. Like when I host LAN parties at home, I really like playing like Flat Out 2. That's a really fun one to be drinking with and playing. I really like board games. Um, but yeah, StarCraft's my favorite RTS by far. Halo, Quake. Suck at all of them though. I'm just bad at video games. Chess. Cool, cool. All right, guys. Well, I've been stalling and dilly-dallying for quite a while. We'll do just a quick run through again. Valuable players, these 3 Iron Man awardees. It'll all be recorded. I'll throw it on freaking the YouTubes. Oh yeah, and I'm really excited for this website. Keep an eye out for that. It is so slick. Champion did such a kick-ass job on it. It blew me away, and I think it's gonna blow you guys all away too. It's really something special. And then, yeah, get some more analysts. Anyway, I've been rambling for too long. Thanks for watching. Let's go ahead and find someone to raid, and then we'll be off to the races. Swati's doing karaoke. Sometimes that gets weird. Blander Strudel. Who else is around? Patches is cool. Ray Rain. Nightcat's playing Zomboid, which means he's probably playing with Escalade. So I'm going to raid him. It's not StarCraft, but they're cool peeps. Where'd my raid button go? Oh, there we go. Later.